Well, welcome to the show, Josh. Pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's good to see you in Kirkland the other month. I guess it's been a while, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, right. Yeah, time flies, man. It doesn't feel like it, but it has.
yeah. So what's happened since?
Oh my gosh, it's been crazy. It's been crazy since actually. Our little production company is growing rather fast. Since I last saw you, man, we acquired a pretty large, I would say, a pretty large arsenal of gear, which is very fun to go into our productions next year and supply. Additionally, we got involved in a film that we're really excited about called Late Fame with Willem Dafoe. So that's really fun, and we're in the kind of in the early stages. Well, kind of early-ish stages for our next feature
Yeah,
next year. So it's been a lot, man. A lot's been going on, to be honest. It's funny when it rains, it pours for the better and worse. You know, it's like
yeah,
you'll have nothing going on, and everything slams one after another.
yeah. You gotta ride that wave because you don't know when it's gonna come back, right?
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, 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 yeah. Capitalize that. Yeah. How
So
about yourself, brother?
been busy, been recording podcasts, been doing my normal day-to-day business, but overall just helping people. Um,
Good.
with their personal planning, business planning, and whatnot. Um,
Yep.
but more than anything, just been enjoying the podcast, getting to meet interesting people like yourself. So I'm glad Tammy introduced us. Yeah, she's an amazing
Thank you,
person
man.
and super,
Ditto. She is.
definitely is super connector in the area. And
I yeah.
but yeah, tell us how you got into writing. And for those that don't know, I mean, we saw a private screening of Ride. Was that your first film? Was that your first
Yeah.
film? Yeah.
Great question. Sorry, man. You were breaking up a little bit there, but I got you now. Yeah, no. So, obviously, as an actor, not. I've been in acting is my primary craft, I should say. But
Okay.
writing wise, in terms of stuff you would actually see, only that would be my second. I've written probably
Yeah.
12 screenplays. I also have. Did I tell you I have my debut novel coming out in February?
Uh-uh.
We talk about this.
No. No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man, it's
Yeah.
actually pretty.
Talk about it.
Yeah, pretty fortuitous timing because I just got all my arcs, which are advanced reader copies right here in these boxes.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I can't believe we haven't talked about this yet, but yeah, man, it's pretty awesome. It's distributed by Simon and Schuster. It's called Dust. I think you're really gonna like it. It's a
Okay.
fantasy novel, so kind of an off tangent. We'll get there later, I guess, but that's also been happening since I last saw you. So on the writing front for screenplays, no, I've written a number of screenplays, but in terms of things that are actually produced, that would be my second picture, and we're going into our third next year.
Mhm. What was really striking about the movie Ride is the budget. Most films you hear about, it's 30 million, 50 million, 100 million. You guys did it for what, 1 million,
Yeah, man, just
right?
over a million. I appreciate that. Yeah, yeah.
Walk us through that process because that's impressive to me.
Thank you so much. Yeah, yeah. Man, I mean, the fundraising process or the act of just making it for that low monetary value.
I say both
Okay,
because
great. Yeah,
when
yeah.
you hear of a film, right, it's like, okay, that's 500 or $100 million. Was that raised? Was that already the studio's money? But, how does that business work?
Yeah, it's a
And
great
especially
question.
for a budget film like yours.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. So for us, obviously we're in the independent market, so we don't have any studio attachment. It's a very, very long story made short for anybody who's interested in film financing and kind of how to do this. A couple of production partners and myself, we had the script Ride, and once we decided we were going to make it ourselves and that we were going to raise the budget on our own, we went out and we found a couple of equity partners to bring in private equity for the first little bit of money, and from there we took that money and we attached two actors who we thought were really great for the project. They were. Once you have the actors who bring quote unquote sales value, you can then take this whole package now, the equity you have left over, the script, your actor attachments, your producers, and then you go to a distributor. So for us, we went to our distributor and they did what's called a pre-buy, where they actually buy the movie before it's made. So they gave us a
Mm,
certain dollar value based on the package we had, the script, the names, and what they thought it would be worth. They gave us that money up front in exchange, essentially, for owning the IP, owning the film, obviously, and then getting a certain back end percentage for themselves. So you take your private equity, you mesh that with this pre-buy from a distributor. That gives you the budget, which in our case was, like you said, 1.2. And then you go out and you make your movie. Oh, and also, I should also mention you have to apply for tax credits, which you don't have to, but you would be a fool not to. We shot this in Tennessee, in Nashville. They have a 20% base rebate on taxes there. So you go to the
mm,
film commission, you have to apply and get approved. Obviously, it's a somewhat of a laborious process, but if people have produced before, they'll know exactly what it is. And then you sort of take that, and sometimes depending on what state you're shooting in, like you guys in Washington is obviously very different than here in Tennessee, but
mm,
they'll allocate a certain amount of funds to the project based on the way they break it down. And sometimes they give you literal cash. Sometimes it's 5 months after the movie's made. It's 4 months after the movie's made. So then you have to go get a loan from a bank based on the letter of intent from the commission. Like it's just like it's a big puzzle. It's a big puzzle putting it all together.
They're almost just like passing the money around till it
Yes.
gets
Yes.
to the finish line, right? So it almost seems like
Exactly.
it's a fixed price contract. If we were thinking about construction, like we're gonna buy this job, and then it's up to you to fit that movie in this price.
100%.
Is that what it is? That,
Pretty much. Yeah.
yeah.
Pretty much. Pretty much. Exactly. You've got to do the rest and exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And then if
Sometimes
you go
projects.
over budget, yeah, if you
What's
go
that?
over budget, then if you go over budget, then it's up to you, right?
Yeah, yeah, it totally depends. You can get really screwed that way. Obviously, it depends on who you're working with and how the contracts are outlined. But some projects have what's called a mini maxi, where you essentially say like the minimum we will make this film for is X, and the maximum we'll make this film for is X. And if you exceed that
Mhm.
maximum and you've made a promise to your investors that you're not going to exceed that because there's a certain level of comfortability for that investment, then at that point you're technically in breach of contract. In some cases, you have to go back and make sure they're willing to go over that budget. So it is pivotal that you don't in the low budget sort of indie world, if assuming you have the proper and legal contracts in place, which you should, then it's pivotal that you don't go over and go
Right.
over budget.
Now you mentioned acting, right? How'd you get into acting?
Yeah. Oh man. Gosh. Very long story short, I went to school at Virginia Commonwealth University. My dad was a Navy SEAL, so I was actually going. I was training, running, swimming, shooting, doing everything. I was actually trying to go
Hmm.
pre-buds. Studied Homeland Security and Criminal Justice in college, and then I ended up having like a total 180. I had a good buddy who was super nonchalant, and very long story short, was just like, "Hey man, why are you always so happy, bro?" And he was like, "Man, the theater." So I was like, what? So I was just a little curious. I was kind of, too serious, Mister Run and Gun athlete kind of thing, and ultimately I was unhappy as false bravado, and so I kind of learned a lot from him. He brought me into the theater, which was great, and I took a theater class, and dude, I never looked back. I ended up moving to LA at the end of my first year of college. Jumped in school out in Santa Monica College. Literally finished up there with a film studies degree. Studied screenwriting, acting, directing, the whole shebang, and just started auditioning. Got an agent pretty quickly. Was blessed with that. Just grinding my butt off and making sure that everything I did was intentional and was going to drive faster than everybody else, metaphorically speaking, because I was kind of behind. I started at age 19, and that's not behind for a lot of people, but for the aspirations at the time. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. I ended up booking Criminal Minds really quickly, like a small little co-star part, and then I got very kind of not quickly, but over the first few years, got a couple of movies, did a couple
Yeah.
co-stars, got on American Horror Story, Criminal Minds, like I said, Grey's Anatomy, Feud, a bunch of really cool shows, and then ultimately led up to.
Yeah. Grey's Anatomy was supposedly shot here, right? But it was up in
Oh
Canada.
yeah, Grey's Anatomy. Yeah, yeah, it's shot here. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's down well, they move around, I think, but primarily the studio is in
Yeah.
LA.
Nice. So what? So it sounded like it was pretty easy for you to break into acting.
Well, no, the initial phases are never as complicated because you're kind of just getting smaller parts. Um, Easy, I would definitely
Hmm.
not say. Easy to start. not easy to finish. It's dude, it's the most brutal industry in the entire world.
Yeah.
In terms of where I am now, things are great. I'm working somewhat consistently. As an actor, the production company's going well, so I'm very excited and blessed for all that stuff. But on the acting front, it's never been harder
Mhm.
for anyone, myself included. Dude, it's brutal. I mean, the way I describe it to people is like, every young man in America wants to play football, and when you think about it statistically, you've got 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm like, okay, name me 32 actors who look like you, and you're just like, oh, yeah. And then you go,
Yeah.
okay, that's just America. Now make that the whole world. Now we have what's called self tape. After COVID, no one really goes in the rooms for the first few rounds of these auditions. So you're competing against the Brits, the Aussies, you name it. You're competing against people from the whole world who can facilitate self tapes
Wow.
in. So now it's harder than it's ever been, man, for anybody. Even really well accoladed and really well accomplished actors who have series
Really
regulars, multiple series regulars under the belt, are still struggling. It's a brutal time in the industry.
interesting. Yeah, because I've been
Yeah.
noticing on these apps like Netflix and whatnot, there's a lot of imported
Big.
movies, and then they just dub over
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
right? So it's like, okay, are those movies cheaper? And is it just about pumping content out there because we can't film fast enough? I mean, what is it? What's
Yeah, it's a
driving
great
that?
question, man. I mean, I'll give you my answer. There's a multitude of answers to that, and I'm certainly not
Mhm.
an expert, quote unquote, on the subject. But the strike shut down Hollywood again, quote unquote, Hollywood for a very long time. We were hit with COVID right before that, so production here in America has just been completely halted for, I mean, gosh, I think that was almost 8 months of back to back, whether just doing nothing from COVID into the strike. Obviously, COVID, after that got somewhat alleviated. Production started opening up with, mask mandates and COVID testing and all the things. But ultimately, we just never really healed entirely from that. And so American production has just been down. There's actual data on this. I don't have those stats on hand, but I want to say it's like 40% year over year on the last 2 years, meaning like since even 2021, right before everything got crazy. Um, Production was great, film's doing well, and now it's just slowly and slowly getting worse. So I would say, if I had to take a guess, again, I'm not an expert. You have a lack of production in America, but you have more and more people flooding to streamers than ever. So to your point earlier, yes, it is a rush for content. So then a lot of these companies will just say, okay, well, what do we acquire? And if the answer is there's not that much being made right now, then you're going to see a lot of what you are seeing, which is buying past IP. For film The Ghost of Girlfriend's Past or something, 2002 a comedy. Like you're going to start seeing 50 First Dates, movies that had huge runs that everyone thought were kind of forever will get acquired and brought in as we're seeing now. And then secondly, you'll see a lot of foreign pictures, which we're seeing now, which are also just getting hotter and hotter from
Mhm.
like a taste standpoint in America, where everybody wants to be part of those and watch those, and they're getting more Oscar noms and more buzz now. So yeah, man, it's just getting brutal. So I think that's really what it comes down to, more and more foreign stuff. And then you also have to think that Netflix is not just an American company. Netflix is all over. So for them, and
Mhm.
of course each region, each country is going to see slightly different things on their programming. But it does, when you think about it, it does make sense. So I'm just hoping, cautiously optimistically, I should say, that we ramp up
Yeah.
American production over the next few years.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. I think that's probably the case with everything that's going
For
on,
sure.
right? So going back to writing, right? What made you take that transition from actor to writer? I'm sure you're still doing both, but how did you find that part of passion? Because going from training to be a Navy SEAL to to being where you are today, it's a stark contrast, right?
Yeah, yeah, big time. That's a great question. Yeah, great question. Well, basically a number of things. One, I really just love psychology, which is a very sort of necessary component of acting. Period, just like human psychology, understanding human behavior, being able to tap into those parts of yourself, psychologically speaking, that mirror a character. And so that same
Mhm.
principle is inherently necessary with writers. They have to understand the same thing. You have to be able to get into the psyche of someone and write it. And I've always been a little bit better personally at looking at things from more of a broad scale view as opposed to a really narrow right now. Don't get me wrong, I'm fine at that. If someone gives me an audition, a page, like I can break it down and I'm good to go. We'll be ready. But I think I'm more naturally gifted at just sort of a more broad scale. Okay, here's the screenplay in the movie. Here's act 1, 2, and 3. Here's where this, X needs to meet Y. Here's where these needs to intersect. Here's where this needs to happen. I'm a little bit better at that, like looking over everything, than I am just having tunnel vision for an hour and a half on something. So I started to think to myself, okay, maybe I have a stronger suit here than there. I started dabbling in writing to have fun with it, just to really understand acting even better. Okay, maybe I'm more strongly suited to write than I am act. I'm not really sure. Let's go find out. And just, which is ultimately what I'm trying to say here, is by going through that discovery process, I sort of ultimately found like, oh, I actually really love this too, and they complement each other beautifully. As long as an actor, you have the wherewithal and the understanding to not act, as if that makes sense. You should be authentically. You should not be acting words on a page. You should be living something that's true for yourself. So as a writer, it's really easy to be like, okay, here's the moment when you need to do this. Here's where X meets Y. But as an actor, you have to throw that away. So if you can kind of take the best of both worlds, I've found that, at least for me personally, has helped me very well.
Yeah. Who's been your inspiration for this actor, writer, producer
Oh
role?
man, a lot of people. From an acting standpoint, I've always been a huge McConaughey fan, believe it or not. I never like Ellen
Yeah.
but the True Detective, just my favorite show of all time. From a writer, actors, like everything, all the alls, probably Zach Braff. If you know who that is. Yeah, dude, he's a
Yeah.
killer. He's a fantastic actor. He just balances everything so well. He produces on the side occasionally, as far as I've seen. Obviously, he directed Garden State, which was a huge Sundance success. I believe he just directed 2 episodes of Shrinking. I mean, the guy's everywhere. It's crazy. So I just respect that, having the sort of ability, really, to just juggle all the hats he's juggling and be
Mhm.
creatively savvy enough. And, it's you don't understand. It's show business. Like, business is twice as long as the word show, and as such, twice as important. If you don't understand how to market something or have the business with it, then you just have a show. It's like no one cares. And someone like Zach
Right.
Braff, I feel like he understands it all. He's really good at being a businessman, but also being super creative. So I've looked up to him a lot.
Yeah. Do you find that a lot of people don't underestimate the actual work involved in creating film, writing for
100%.
film?
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. It's brutal, man. I mean, to make, Ride, for example, I mean, we wrote a pilot for Ride 7 years ago. Yeah, 7 years ago. Never,
7 years.
nothing happened. We optioned it a couple times, which is great. That's a victory. You make a little money, company acquires it. The rights were relinquished because of COVID. We ended up making it into a movie. Even when we had written the movie, it took us 3 years to actually get into production. Like I said, we went out and we raised that private equity. That's not an overnight thing. You have to build financial decks. You have to hire a lawyer to get you a PPM and get things accredited with the SEC. Like, there's all kinds of things you have to do that are just extremely hard, that take years to learn, that period, before you can actually go out and raise those funds. Everyone's like, oh yeah, well, we'll just go talk to our Uncle Tony and he'll give us $10,000. I know it doesn't work that way. My dad's going to give me 200 grand. Like, no, they're not. It's tough to raise the money. So then, once you do all of that, and then you actually get boots on the ground to go make a project, super competitive. Getting talent aboard, like, it's really hard. There's a lot of good projects for A-list
Mhm.
talent. So, dude, it's brutal how much goes into it. And then once you do all of that, you finally get all these unbelievable things done years later. Then you have to go on set, and you're working 14-hour days every day, usually for X amount of days. It's brutal, man. It's brutal. Shot Ride in the middle of the winter. I remember being sick on set at 4 a.m. on a building in Nashville. It's like 18 degrees, wind flying by. You're supposed to, like, look like it's summer. Dude, it's the least glamorous in the world. It's just the final product looks glamorous.
Right. Where's the locale you're most excited to potentially shoot in? Like, if you
Say,
had to choose one place,
you broke up there, buddy. Did
like
you say the location?
like which yeah which location would you love to shoot in that you haven't shot in?
I would love to go shoot something either in Italy. My dad actually lives in Italy. It's beautiful. I'd love to go shoot something there, or just because I'm a huge fan of the Caribbean in general, I'd love to go shoot something in the Caribbean. Anywhere in the Caribbean, anywhere in
Oh,
Italy, The Caribbean, just because I'm tired. I always get projects that shoot in the middle of the winter for some reason. It just feels like I'm always on the coldest set ever, which is fine. I have no problem with cold. I wouldn't mind one being like, guys, we're going to the Caribbean for 30 days. Yes. That would be my answer.
So tell us about Dust.
So yeah, man. So Dust, where do I even begin? I've been writing this for almost 11 years on and off. Not like I've been writing it every day for 11 years.
Wow.
But I started the concepts of this when I was 19. Yeah, literally. By the time I was 22, I had a solid, I think it was like 187, just south of 200 pages that I was pretty happy with. I was a young guy. I'd been writing every day in it, and I shared it with a couple friends, and they were like, yeah, this is trash. So I was like, oh no. I'm 22 or 23. I deleted the whole thing, started over, but I had the basis of something that I loved, and I knew there was something there. It's just that I wasn't a talented writer at the time. Not that I'm some great writer now, but I've certainly grown in my craft, and I've grown as a human, which is necessary for strong writing, period. People who are really young and they write, generally speaking, they have not seen enough life to write something that's generally thrilling for folks my age or your age now. So I restarted at 23, ended up scrapping a couple of other iterations, but the whole time that I'm scrapping these iterations, I'm taking the heart of what I always knew was good, even as a young man, all the way up as I was growing. I was like, I know the center of this is good. So circled to like age 27, and I was like, you know what? I'm starting to make things. I'm making projects. I'm selling scripts. I'm going to go back at this book and give it my all. And I did for like 3 years straight. I got an agent, Don Pape. Shout out to my agent. He's amazing. Pape Commons. He's a literary agent out in Colorado. He believed in the book. And yeah, man, he ended up helping me get some deals and move it out. And as far as the content of the book, it's fantasy, very Game of Thrones, very if you've seen The Witcher, all stuff like that. But it's very grounded. Lord of the Rings is kind of like up here, Game of Thrones, even though there's still dragons and White Walkers and stuff. Game of Thrones is very, very grounded. I'd like to fancy, I'm not comparing my works to George R. R. Martin, don't worry, but I'd like to fancy my book is more on the grounded side of things. And yeah, man, it's exciting. We've got a lot of pre-sales already. If anyone's a fan of fantasy, check it out. The website's cool. The book is, I think people are really, really going to, man. It's a unique premise that I think is gonna hopefully be a sneaky little franchise.
Oh, nice. Nice. Probably turn it into a movie.
That is the goal.
Point, or a miniseries.
Series.
Yeah.
But that's a 10. Nice. Oh my gosh, my Siri just went off when I said that. Not you, Siri. But that's like a 10-year. It's like a 10-year, 12-year plan.
It's time.
What'd you say?
Yeah. I said, well, you have to share the link. I mean, we'll share your link, blow it up for you as much as we can.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. I would love that.
Yeah. So basically, I'm curious, like, what would your dad think when you decided you're gonna skip out on buds?
Yeah. Dude, it's so funny. It's hilarious. I was ready. And, I was going to do 4 years of college before I ultimately went to buds anyway. So we had a long time before I was going to actually attempt it. But yeah, it was funny, man. So for context, obviously my dad was teams, and my grandpa was actually a 3-letter agency guy in pretty cool places. And so I was like, hey guys, hear me out. It's like, I'm going to be an actor. Yeah, dude. Yeah. Hilarious. So that happened. But it was cool, man. It was cool. They're super supportive. They're super supportive. And honestly, like at a certain point, not to say that I don't know. I don't know what would have happened each way. I'd like to think I know, but when you've seen some real things in the world, and both of them have, it's they were not upset that I didn't choose that path. Put it that way. There was a lot of fun and games and name calling and all the jokes you might imagine would come from a SEAL and a 3-letter op guy, but ultimately they were very, very, very supportive, and no one necessarily wants that for their child. know what I mean? I mean, it's one of the most
Yeah,
honorable things on this earth, but it makes parents sweat. Let's put it that way.
yeah. And I've had guys on this show that come from that world,
Mm.
and they've seen things, right? And things that you would just scratch your head because it just doesn't make sense, but somehow it's
Yeah.
doing good, for the world. But there's definitely a lot of sacrifice. Definitely a lot of sacrifice. So,
There is.
thanks to your family for their service. But yeah, my
Thank
brother's in the service, but he left. Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for
Um,
your service as
but
well.
yeah, he wrote. Yeah, yeah. He ended up. I mean, he was a sniper, so he had a
Wow.
one-on-one relationship with whatever target he had, right? But yeah, he's not the same for
Wow.
sure. Yeah, so I guess I mean, thinking about all your experiences and whatnot, I mean, what are some of the challenges that you've run into as you take that next step of uh, career progression?
Yeah, yeah, man. A lot. Good question again. A lot. From an acting standpoint, like I said, just statistics are just so hard. Once you get to a certain echelon in the game, I mean, you can be the most talented actor in the world. I can literally name you 100 actors who I know, who I objectively think are better than me and better than most people on TV, who are studs, Broadway studs, like big actors, big theater guys, people who've been working at the craft for 20 years, who will literally never be even a series regular on a show. Like it's just so brutal how many different elements and aspects have to align. So that's one thing is just statistics on the whole thing. That's a tough part to face for people, even for myself. Where you can give your all to something and be right for it and get right to the end, and then they cast your mother and she's got black hair and you're out. Or it's like it's so tough. From a writing standpoint, it's the same thing, man. It's like you can have 15 screenplays that are unbelievable that you've been writing for 5 years, just pedal to the metal going, and maybe you're lucky if you sell or you option or you create and actually make 5 of those at best. That's like pretty good odds. So just stats are always hard, hanging in the game the longest, making sure you have tough skin, and making sure that what you do gets done with the right people. That was a part of one project that should have just been an absolute grand slam, teed up for perfection. And we just got involved with the wrong people, and the wrong people took over, and the project was
Mhm.
and your name's on that, so that sucks. So that's another huge challenge from not so much of an acting standpoint, because as an actor, there's always forgiveness. But when you're producing something or you're writing something or you're directing something, you just have to make sure your surrounding supporting groups are incredible, which is a lot harder than you think, actually, especially shooting in major places like LA or major hubs like New York. It's hard to really surround yourself with good people and a good team.
Yeah. So would you say that you found the right people now after Ride, or are you still building that A team?
Yeah, man. No, I do. Yeah, I definitely have found the right core group. But you're always expanding, and every project is different on a project to project basis. So kind of I think that I have the really really strong core 10 people I'll always work with. And I have a lot more than that who I like and I enjoy, and I think we would rehire, we would recast, we would work with, whatever that looks like. But it's really filling in the rest of the film, because depending on the budget and size of the project, you can have anywhere from very small 20 to a very large 120 people on set for some of these independent features. And you got to hire the right HODs, and then they got to hire the right people that they like. It's really hard to vet everyone, especially if you're doing all the tasks I kind of already talked about with rides. Like if you're doing all these other things, how do you get on a call like this and vet 120 people over a 3-week hiring process? It's really hard.
Yeah.
So that's a big challenge. And
Interesting.
it's also easy to
Yeah.
be like uh how do I say, be very likable up front. When you get on a Zoom, it's pretty easy to be likable. It's, oh, here's my resume, here's what I've done. This person loves me, this person loves me, I'm great.
Yeah.
They're talking to you for 15 minutes, telling you their vision, and it's pretty easy. Like, oh yeah, this guy's probably right for the part. And then they show up, and it turns out they're just either a slacker, or when things get hard, they're crybabies a lot of the time. So
Wow.
It's hard.
A lot of that in this world, huh?
A lot of that in this world, buddy. A lot of that in this world. And hey, if you want to, no disrespect. It just it probably is not the business for you. That's your prerogative.
Yeah, I mean, when you put it out there, I mean, it's definitely a lot of work, and I just keep thinking, right? So these, people only see the finished product. They don't see the blood, sweat, and the tears that it
Yes,
took to get the finished product. Right?
big time. Could not agree more, man. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's but it makes as the producer, the writer, you gotta find some sense of joy in seeing that because you know what it took to get there, right? And then the
Yes,
bonus is just people appreciating your work, paying, supporting the business, whatnot. So,
big time, man. Totally,
so
totally agree.
yeah. Any any chance of you, writing a Navy SEAL based or 3-letter agency movie?
Dude, yes and no. Yes and no.
Have your folks asked about it?
Yeah. They have in ways. They have all that's to come. I think that's a tough genre for a multitude of reasons. One, it's got to just honor them so radically, which is
Mm,
hard to do. Two, budgetarily speaking, it's very very expensive. You got shoot 'em up action. But I actually so our next film next year. I don't want to give too many details away on it until we make announcements, but it does deal with the act of honoring service members and veterans, and
mhm,
it's pretty awesome. I think you're really gonna like it. So the short answer is yes. It's not a shoot 'em up. It's not a military film. It's a
yeah,
drama, but the character is a veteran, and
mhm,
it's definitely the thing I'm most proud of anything I've ever made. It's my favorite screenplay I've ever written
right.
by far, and got the funding for it locked. We're going into production next year. It's called The Pirate King. I will say that,
So,
and it's the thing I'm most excited
yeah,
about for
yeah, we'll definitely be on the lookout for that.
Thank you, man. I'll come back on the show before it comes out and we'll talk all about it.
Oh yeah, no, we'd love to promote it for you and do our job for that. So,
Absolutely, man. Thank you. Thank you.
so what are the things you're excited for in 2025? What else are you excited for?
Yeah, good questions. Well, I have a show coming out called, I shouldn't say I have a show. I'm in a couple episodes of a show called Butterfly, and I have an awesome role in it.
Mm.
Rewinding to the Navy SEAL thing, I won Golden Gloves, if you know what that is, when I was 18. I was training really hard to do that, and I've been kind of like wrestling.
Oh yeah, nice. No, I mean you got golden gloves, right?
Yeah. Sorry, you broke up
Yeah,
again there. Yeah.
golden gloves. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
So moral of the story is I've been fighting for the most part my whole life. I wrestled a little bit. I've been doing jiu-jitsu a lot, grappling. I actually train at an awesome gym here right now that Michael Chandler runs, super cool in Nashville. And so I finally booked a role that I could actually use my MMA on for stunts. It's called Butterfly,
Nice.
Amazon. That comes out next year. Yeah. I'm probably that's not what I'm necessarily most excited for 2025, but I'm very excited for that for 2025 because there's an actor who I look up to a ton, Daniel Day Kim. He's the lead of that show, and we got to scrap a little bit, which is pretty cool. Obviously, it's fake, but he's a
Nice.
stud across the board, and it was just fun to actually get to do that. It's very much a dream part for me. And ironically, he's a 3-letter agency guy as the part. So that was it's all full circle, man. It's all so that was really fun, and
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that coming out. I'm in the pilot of that, and I've got a pretty cool part in it, so that's exciting. But then, like I said, we're going to gear up. We're going to shoot the Pirate King. I've actually got 2 other movies coming out that I'm just in as an actor, kind of decent roles, whatever. And then another show, but Butterfly is probably the most I'm excited about. And then the book, man, and Dust. Like that's like if I really had to categorize it for 2025, going into the Pirate King, we're excited about that. And then my book, Dust. Like
Mhm.
it's so hard to make a successful book right now. So I'm just hoping to have any degree of success with it, especially in that genre. Fantasy is really tough to stand out in, and there's a lot of romantasy right now, which is kind of
Yeah.
bullying the whole market. It's tough to find people who like the style and the genre of fantasy that's more old school GOT, Lord of the Rings. I shouldn't say tough. It's hard to attract them if they haven't heard of the material before. So I'm going to spend a lot of time marketing that, doing my best to get that word out, and hopefully just make a successful piece.
Awesome, man. I do a little bit of mixed martial arts as well.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. What do you do?
You ever hear of you ever hear of Demetrius Johnson?
Did you say Demetrius Johnson?
Yeah, you ever hear of Demetrius Johnson? Mighty Mouse?
Oh yeah, Mighty Mouse. He's a freak, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm one of the coaches and one of the main sparring partners throughout his career.
No way. That's awesome, man. That's great. Dude, he's a killer. Good for you. Good for you. That's cool. Where do you train? You're there out in Seattle?
Yeah, we train at AMC Pancration.
Yeah. Cool, man.
So next time you're out here, man, let's put on some mitts and do some training.
Done. That's awesome. I love it. I look forward to it. Okay. I look forward to it very much.
Yeah, I just won't box with you.
Yeah. Just shoot immediately. No. That's cool, dude. Good for you. That's awesome, man. He's an inspiration, dude. That guy's a killer. I think I saw a video of him.
Yeah, he's amazing, man.
Yeah, dude. He went to an open division for JITS, and I'm pretty sure he got second in complete open class. Like, I think he went. God, I'd have to see, but you probably know what I'm talking about. He went no gi against this guy who was like 200 pounds.
Yeah. It's the 300. Yeah.
Insane.
Guy,
yeah, insane, dude. He's a freak.
Mm-hmm.
So good for you. That's awesome. That's really awesome. It's fun, man. It's addicting. What'd you say?
Oh yeah, once you get started, it's game over, right? It's addictive. You feel good. You get a good workout in. It's a lot more fun than just lifting weights.
So much. The problem with that is it ruins everything else for you. Once you've done it, I don't care anymore. I actually have a hairline fracture in a rib right now and a little bit of my muscle pulled off of freaking cartilage. I've been out for like 4 weeks from it. And I've been like, for the most part, I've just been trying to rehab and heal. I'm on some peptides. And then I kind of was trying to do like stationary bike, keep my ribs really still, really easy motions. And I'm like, dude, this sucks. Like it makes everything else so boring. So whenever you lift weights or even when I wasn't hurt, I'd go back to CrossFit or just like get out and try to take a run. I'm like, dude, this is boring. So I'm with you there.
Well, hey, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I mean, I guess we could leave the audience with, your top 5 tips for the new year.
Oh, that's
good. And, to help them accomplish their goals.
Mm-hmm.
So
I love that. That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. Yeah. Tip number 1, depending on what you do, categorize and visualize. Like I'm a total weirdo, but that helps me so much. I have massive goal boards in my office in there, and I use them to offset my other boards. So like I have my yearly goals, and then I have a monthly goal board, and then I have a weekly planner. So like each of those, I can kind of, again, going back to seeing the broad scale, it's like, okay, here's what I want to accomplish this year, and then this quarter, then within this quarter, here's my month. What do I need to get done every week for this month then to attain that goal? So on kind of just like a broad scale, that's very, very helpful for me personally if that resonates with anyone out there. Number 2, don't give up. If you're in entertainment, if most of the people watching this are in entertainment, man, don't give up. It's so hard. It takes so long. And we always feel like we're falling behind, but just remember that like it literally just takes one roll. You can have 0 credits and then book Jon Snow and you're the biggest actor on the face of the planet. Like you just don't give up. If you're a writer, you can have nothing, and then you meet Stephen King at a coffee shop and he likes your short, and the rest is so just don't give up. Let's see. Number 3, be happy. God, be happy. It was actually cool. I had a fitness and conditioning coach who was all about breathing. He's a big Wim Hof Art of Breath guy, and he had conducted a study actually at Stanford. This was years ago. This was like 8 years ago. And the study conclusively showed that the number 1 indicator for performance was actually attitude. It was actually the people who it wasn't sleep, it wasn't this. Yeah, it was actually attitude. It was people. Now, again, I don't know exactly how the study was conducted, but I think it was 50 people all in the same athletic category. All these guys were D1 athletes. Some of them had been sleep deprived. Some of them had eaten crap. People were higher on carbs. People were higher on this. Anyways, long story short, the guys who were the happiest, and I don't remember how that was measured, something to do with vitamin D exposure and attitude, like blew everybody else away. So whatever you're doing in life, that's the third one. Like just try to be happy. It seems like kind of dark times over the past 4 years and 5 years, I should say, but just I don't know, be happy. That works for me, man. I've been bad at that lately. I've been really down on myself in certain aspects, or not marketing good enough for the book, or movies not as big as I want it to be, and I lost the role and attached to another guy, and I know those sound like first world problems, and in some ways they are, but I beat myself up about them. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Just be happy. So be happy wherever you're at. Let's see, what is that? 3 or 4. Another tip. For the film industry, this is film specific. So if you're not in film, then I guess ignore this one. But if you are in film, this is a fun one. Study. Like, dude, you would be shocked how many actors don't act. They don't go to acting class. How many filmmakers don't watch movies? Like, I'm like, dude, you're a director. You should have a literal catalog of films in your head. You are doing a job that allows you to literally sit there and watch movies, and that's considered productive. Like, you're extremely lucky. That's the other one. Study.
Yeah, and study. Yeah, so hone in your craft, basically.
Exactly.
In any way possible for him.
In any way possible. Here's my husky getting ready to complain. What is it, bud?
Oh, nice.
He's
probably
complaining.
loving the weather right now, huh?
Oh, dude, he loves it. He absolutely loves it. Yeah, when it snows, he's in heaven. I'm coming, bud. Hilarious.
Yeah, one of my buddies had to give away his husky because he was moving to the desert.
Ah, that sucks.
Yeah. So
But
not made for the desert.
no, not at all,
So
dude.
they're not made for the desert.
Dogs. No, they're not. They're not. God, yeah. I know that was hard for him, man. They're tough dogs. They're such good dogs. Once you really get them trained, they're still going to be a pain in the butt. They're huskies, but like, dude, they look you in the eyes. These dogs have serious soul. Huskies are cool dogs.
Oh yeah. Well, hey, thanks you for coming on the episode. Really appreciate you sharing your story. Anything for the audience? You want to promote your book, your films? Just share with us now.
Oh yeah, man. Well, thanks for having me, first of all. And yeah, like I said, I'll come back on when we start promoting some more film. But yeah, man, just my book Dust. That would be the one thing. If anyone out there is a reader of any kind, you can find it anywhere. Go to anywhere you buy books. It's open for pre-order right now. Go to Amazon, type in Dust, dustbook.shop. That's my website. It looks kind of cool. You can go to simonschuster.com. You can get it there. Literally anywhere. Go to Barnes & Noble's, Books A Million, wherever you get books, it's up for pre-order. So it would mean the world to me if you did. And I think you're really going to like it. That's all I'm going to market right now. I've got a lot of things to market, but that's the one that I really care about. So I'm going with that.
I'll be sure to grab my copy.
Thank you, brother. That means the world to me. All right, man. Take care.
Yeah. Happy holidays, brother.
You too, brother. Bye.
Thank you for tuning into the show. If you found value in what our guests shared and what we share on the show, please feel free to share with your friends and family. We'd love to see you back here. Thank you again. And you can find us on pretty much every social media channel, YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify as well. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Step into the unscripted arena.